Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the podcast. It's Annalena here, your host, and I'm very delighted to have an amazing guest with me today. Her name is Mel McSherry, and before I read your beautiful bio, I just want to say hi.
Hi, Annalena. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. We already had a little mini chat the first time we actually meet over Zoom, but we connected, we took off. So I think this is going to be an amazing episode. So International Business and Life Guide Mel McSherry helps inspired yet overwhelmed entrepreneurs honor their lives and become the architects of their own success. Mel uses their spiritual gifts as well as their 14 plus years of business building experience to slash entrepreneurs' stress and bring their success to life. Using both human design and partnership with traditional business development tools, Mel coaches others on how they can connect to what they want, understand how they're designed to create what they want, and implement their strengths and strategies. So every day they are profitable mentally, emotionally, and financially. I love that. As an entrepreneur since 2010, Mel has launched 2 successful businesses, became a 2 times published author, spoken almost 200 times all over the US and overseas, and created True Life by Design, all while being a primary caregiver to their 13-year-old son who's autistic. So welcome, Mel. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you. Thank you. Like I said, I'm so excited to be here and just nerd out with you for a little bit.
Yeah, we kind of realized because you were saying you checked me out on Instagram and I also checked you out, obviously. I was like, wow, she's doing a lot of similar things. You talk about human design, you
hmm
also talk about money, but in the context of not just money, right? Because
hmm
that's actually, why don't we start with this conversation? Because
Yeah.
it has been very prominent in the last few weeks for me again. And I've been
Mm.
talking about money a lot. I always
Yeah.
loved money as a child. Then I learned, maybe my love for money is not so good because we often learn like, yeah, money can be bad or only that,
Yeah.
these not helpful beliefs we pick up along the line.
Absolutely.
But, and then when I started my business, I fell a lot for just the big money talk. Hey, like
Yes.
the hook to get me into the program, like, and let me show you my strategy to make X amount of money. And of course, I
Yeah.
was coming from a scarcity place myself because
Yeah.
I thought what I'm after is the money. Of course, I also wanted to help people, but there was this pressure, there was this
Yeah.
hierarchy. I felt like I put money and people that talked
hmm
or claimed to have a lot of money. I put it on a pedestal. And I really, over the years, I had to learn this lesson, I believe, because it's not
Yeah.
about making other people wrong. It was actually a beautiful reflection for me that
hmm
there's something within me that I see money kind of separated, and I do tend or have at least a lot in the past put money on a pedestal.
hmm
And now I'm really in the space where, it gets to be both because
Yeah.
money is important, right? Money, without money,
Absolutely.
we got to pay our bills. We want to try, we want to do certain things.
Yeah.
Like you talk about what you want. So, and you put it intentionally, it's about mentally, emotionally, and financially being successful. So I would just love to hear a little bit from your journey, your perspective on
Absolutely.
money and all of that.
I love that you mentioned hierarchy because I use that word a lot when I talk about being holistically profitable, and that's WHOLE profitable.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel that for those of us who are entrepreneurs, no matter how long we've been in the game of it, that hierarchy does tend to flip. Most of us, in fact, all of us start and choose to be entrepreneurs because we want to be helpful. We want to do something our own way. We want to do something that initially makes us mentally and emotionally profitable. And when we start announcing those things, that's where we get all that feedback and all of those offers of, oh, 60K in 60 seconds or, 5 steps to $5 million. And we get caught up in it. And I know for myself in my 14-year journey, it was a slow process, but it did definitely happen where that hierarchy got flipped and money and numbers all of a sudden were my main measurable. And it was my main objective and focus. And I thought, being able to connect with people like yourself or being able to get that mental and emotional profitability was just kind of the icing on the cake. And then well, more importantly, human design found me, and I understood why I let that happen and where I was going too far. And that's why I love utilizing it with traditional business development tools, because it gives people, as you know, a vernacular. It gives them that operations manual of, oh, this is why I don't like this. It's not because it's outside of my comfort zone or whatever. It's actually because that's not innately how I am meant to create what I want. So when we kind of take a step to the side and stop using those traditional measurables of how successful, quote unquote, successful we are, and we
Mhm.
go back to, oh, for those who know their human design, was I satisfied today? Was I peaceful today? Was I successful today? Like going back to those little elements that make such a big difference, because this is about sustainability. It's not just about who can get there first.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I'm also, in a way, thankful that I have experienced the extreme,
Absolutely.
because I had to understand that it's not for me. And I tried it out. That's a kind of three line or many gen energy that we learn
Yeah.
in the human design chat. Where like, I've tried it out,
Yep.
I've done it, it doesn't work for me, right? And then also down
Hmm.
the line, I have met so many people, lots of people I personally work with, that had the exact same experience. And I was like, oh, maybe there's something to it, right? Maybe I'm not the crazy
Yeah.
one that, you know, because we can also, what happens so easily that I think especially amongst ladies oftentimes, whereas kind of this like, yeah, we're judging each other, right? And it's like, oh,
It's that comparison syndrome. And
yeah, and you're this
yeah.
jealous. And so it can get like, whoa, 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 right? For all of us, I think we are born just judging all the time.
Yeah.
It's something we have to be so aware of. Because then I also realized that I stopped speaking up because it was like, yeah, but I don't want to judge. But then I was like, hold on, but I have to also create awareness about it. I think it's actually very important.
Mm,
It's my job to actually, hey, share my story, talk about it without
yeah.
making it this pointing finger at other people. But I can say like, hey, this is not how I choose to do business. For me, that doesn't
Yeah.
feel right. It doesn't feel like an
Yeah.
integrity. It feels
Yeah.
like it's missing the point. And then the other thing, and I think we're going to talk about this anyways, more the duality. So then there's the other extreme of like, I don't care about money. Money's not important. I just want to help people. And we totally deflect anything with money. And we
Mm,
also, I guess, our self-worth is not really connected with feeling worthy to receive the abundance that's our birthright. So I have
yeah.
definitely also been in the other extreme. And I was like, okay, now I get to like find my sweet middle spots. And
Yeah.
I think we all have to, it's unique, right? It's
Absolutely. Because you're correct. Some people I know for myself, like, yes, I do love money. Is it my main motivator? No, it is that icing on the cake, because my main motivator is staying true to my design, connecting with people, sharing my story, all of those things. And I now trust and know that the money that is meant for me will come to me. And that is a complete 180 from how I originally, especially when I got into the quote unquote coaching industry, how much that was so different, because I did have a previous mentor who I loved, and definitely not talking down to them whatsoever. They were very numbers driven. It was all about how many phone calls did you make? How many things, all
mm,
this stuff. And when I would get so exhausted as a projector, as a hermit, I would just keep pushing myself. And I didn't really understand where this burnout was coming from, because financially I was doing brilliantly. I mean, on paper, especially from, 2018 to pretty much 2020. So those 2 years, I was killing it, because I was doing all of the things that they told me to do that were, now that I know,
mm,
almost completely opposite of what I need to do as a projector. And so when I first read my chart, I actually cried, because I finally had that. Oh, I'm not lazy. I'm not crazy. I'm not, I mean, I am shy, but it's those elements of being a projector, being a 6-2, being completely open except for my solar plexus and my root. That was just going, okay. And so I was able to still take what they taught me and just customize it to how I work now. So those foundations that they helped me set up Are they all still standing? No. Have they been remodeled? Absolutely. And I think that's another reason why I like to talk about human design, because we were talking about this in the green room earlier. It's not the end all be all. It's not the only thing you will ever need in order to be quote unquote successful. And it's a beautiful tool when it comes to you, however you choose to use it, when you choose to use it, that can just amplify and support you as you move forward. I don't think there's any necessarily wrong way to utilize human design. I think there's interesting ways and everybody's different, but it really is what the core for me is. Just if you understand yourself and connect yourself and you know how to make the best decisions for you so you can be profitable mentally, emotionally, and financially, do it to it, pumpkin.
Yeah, exactly. So when you were just talking, what came up for me too, because I think the biggest thing for all of us, I know especially projectors and the undefined sequel types, right? Is
Yeah.
this, oh, I'm not supposed to be like a machine that's just like doing the same thing and making 8 calls a day. Because even
Yeah.
I'm a manager in tropical, and the true ideal, I'm a generator. So you would think, oh, I can't do that either.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. I actually really appreciate it. And then I also learned, well, there's all these projected channels, and most channels in the chart are projected.
Yeah.
And we are all here to respond to life, not only generator types, right? So for
Absolutely.
me, we are actually like a blend of all the types in some way. That's
Oh,
how
yeah.
I see it. And the projector also helped me to understand that we are not machines, right? We're not
Yeah.
meant to all do the same thing. And also, what is called the science of differentiation.
Yeah.
What works for you? And we may be the same human design type.
But
And
completely different people.
yeah, and of course I love math too. And I was like, guys, we're like 8 billion or 9 billion people on planet Earth. You really think that we have 5 categories and we're all the same?
Right.
Like, I mean, that's kind of funny to think. So, but again, I like the archetype, what we learn from that is super
Yeah.
interesting for me, right? And the signs of differentiation that, okay, I'm just different than you. Even like you and I, we talk about the similar stuff. That was another thing. I
Mhm.
used to hold myself back talking about things because once I opened up social media, I was like, oh, this person's already talking about it, so I can. They tell me I'm a
Mm.
copycat or something.
Yeah.
Also learned that you and I, we can talk about the same topic, but it's gonna connect so differently because I can look at
Absolutely.
you. I have a different past. We're just different people, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we connect to different audiences. Some people may totally resonate with one person, not with another. And that's not personal. It's just where we're supposed to be. So
Absolutely.
the other thing that came to me, it's a little bit random going now back to the money thing. So the big talk in the coaching space is always like, oh, everybody can be a millionaire. You're supposed to be. It's just a mindset thing. And I have come actually to my truth, and I would
Mhm.
love to hear yours. Like, I really don't think so, because I think some people literally don't care even
Yeah.
about being a millionaire, right?
Yeah.
And I think with force, like you
Yeah.
have also shown, right? Like I did
Yeah.
follow the system. I was on paper very successful, but probably drained, burned out, and all the things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, because there is this like hunt and this pressure of like we all have to be there. And I've
Yeah.
had many people that are like, yeah, I just want to have a simplistic lifestyle. I want to be more connected to nature. And I think some of the most successful, richest people,
Mhm.
they are more connected to nature. They are less dependent on the artificial outside world, and
Yeah.
they have access to things that money can't buy.
Yeah. They're
And also,
connected to what they want, right? And I think that's
yeah.
why when I ask that question, or that's a question that I love so much, because we do get sucked into other people's expectations, other people's journeys, what we think we should do, or who we think we should be in order to create XYZ. And we don't really take the time to go, what do I want? What do I want?
Mm.
Emotionally? What do I want mentally? What do I want financially? Because I know for me, when I didn't do those check-ins, when I was just playing the game and doing the things that my mentor told me, was I bringing in 6 figures? Yes, but that wasn't good enough for them. So then it wasn't good enough for me. So then I was consistently going more and more and more and more and more.
Mm.
And I was kind of fed like, this is what you want to be. I tried to be a millionaire before 30, didn't work. Trying to be a millionaire before 40, didn't work. I'm now 43. But I thought that's what you did as an entrepreneur. And I remember one of my past mentors in the spiritual circles, one of their favorite exercises was to take your journal and just go, what is my ideal day? Time doesn't exist, so there's no 24 hours. What does your ideal day look like? And I've done that exercise so many times, but this time just really shocked me. I was out on the lakefront and I was like, it's been a while.
In the
I'm
lake.
gonna, yes.
Oh my
So
God.
I'm in Chicago and I
I
live right by the
love,
lakefront, and water
I,
is my like
mine too.
thing.
It's like,
Yeah.
I told you I'm in Seattle right now and you
Yeah.
lived here, right? So my favorite spot, most inspirational, most relaxing is always like by a lake, by the water.
Yeah. I need water. So I have decided to do that exercise, and so I wrote down, what do I want, or what is my ideal day? And I was so shocked to hear myself say, what I have now, just a little bit more, but it wasn't even money. It was just more experiences, more time with my partner, more this, that, the other. And that really did shock me. And that helped me feel, as a projector, our ping is success.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, success was just like radiating from me. Cause I'm like, I made it. But because I wasn't trying to make myself into somebody that I'm not, also re-looking at, my relationship with money. And I'm sure we could have a whole nother conversation on the word mindset, because that's one that's just been,
Yeah.
it's a thing. However, I will just say this, that when I really started connecting to, again, who I am and what I want, and then utilizing my human design, it was really beautiful and continues to be beautiful, the way that things present themselves and the fluidity that comes with it, because it's that inner confidence of, oh no, I know this to be true. And
Mm.
so for those who love money and they're like, no, it is super duper important that I am a millionaire by a certain age, awesome sauce. Like, that's another thing too of, yes, to your point, we are all umbrellaed under 5 types, but
Mm.
none of that makes us technically the same. It's how we utilize that type as from our conditioning, from our not selves, from all of our experiences. We all are different inside of those types. And so to take our type and try to just hone in on it too much and just go, oh no, I can't do that. I'm a projector. I have to wait to be invited. Okay, do you know what
Yeah.
that means?
That's
Or
that's
I'm a generator. I can't do that because I have to wait to respond. It's like, wow, it's so
yeah.
close.
That's exactly. It's funny because I was thinking about it. It's again the polarity of things. First,
Yeah.
human design comes along. We have the permission. Oh, I don't have to force it. I don't have to hustle. Like it's being mainly taught in the coaching space, right?
Mhm.
And then we fall into the other extreme of like, oh, I can't, I can't, I can't. And then we don't take action. And we're like wondering, like, oh, I should just sit on the couch and be energetically attuned.
Mm.
No, that's
Yeah.
it's
That's
like,
not gonna work. Even the universe is like, no, 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 no. Like, you can tell us what you want, but you still gotta do some things. Like, we don't just hand
yeah.
everything to you on a silver platter.
Yeah. And I've actually recently, Kabbalah has come into my life, which is also in human design. And
Mm-hmm.
they talk so much about everything in the universe is always moving and we have to take action. We have to get out of our comfort
Yeah.
zone. Yeah, we still have to rest. I think it's in our human nature to easily fall into extremes. I've really noticed that from myself.
Absolutely.
And it's also part of the evolution, right? We are aware of it, it happens, and then we find through tasting the experiences, we find our middle way. And I also want to talk about what you talked about, this, what we want.
Mm-hmm.
It really made me realize once more that the slowing down is so
Yeah.
important because we are so influenced these days.
Yeah.
You know, while you and I, we were able to connect because of social media, because of internet, it's beautiful, right? We probably would have never met otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to be so discerning because you pick up your Instagram or anything,
Yeah.
and right away, you know, here's my secret formula to make $1 million. We get sucked into this energy vortex.
Yeah.
And we are not even like, I really want this. Like, we don't even take
Right.
time. And 5 minutes later, you have a totally different story, something totally different. Like, oh my God. So I think we are just so confused by all the different wants that people have. And
Absolutely.
I think as coaches, entrepreneurs, service providers, it's our responsibility to actually invite people, support people like you do, to get clarity on what do you want. And it's not for me to say, well, yeah, you want to make a lot of money. Yeah, you want this. This is how you want to do it. And this is just, it's still so much there. And again, I can decide to judge it. It's probably going to fire back on me. What I have done more lately is really notice it consciously and like, okay,
Yeah.
I totally get it. I have been there myself. I would probably act in the same way, but I'm choosing differently now. And I have started to unfollow all of this because this is just not what
Same.
it doesn't do any good for me. And I still notice if I surround myself too much with it, I get pulled into this energy again and I start to question myself again. And then the next step for all of us, I think, is that, you know, we can talk bad about it all day long. Like people that just talk about 6 and 7 figures. Is it going to change anything? No. We have to look at ourselves and make different purchasing decisions.
Absolutely.
I continue to buy into this stuff, it's going to grow. I mean, it's supply and demand. That's what I learned in my business administration college degree, you know, like while we buy something, it's going to be offered more. But I think if we really stop to purchase this hyped up stuff, then people will have to adjust. People will have to.
And I think we're already definitely seeing that. I've been to a couple of networking events with 6, 7-figure earners, and the conversation lately is the things that they used to do no longer work. Master classes don't really seem to work anymore. A lot of these traditional kind of binary, I guess you can say, thinking is no longer really computing the way that it did. And I completely agree, because especially since 2020 and COVID, that was just like the initiation point of, oh, you know, all those traditional things, yeah, they're not going to work anymore. So now we got to figure it out again. And for those who are, who know this, and I'm not sure, I'm sure you do, but, in human design, there's the solar plexus mutation of 2027. Like we are moving into a space in 2027 where it'll come back to more of that quote unquote feminine energy, where it is about collaboration, conversation. It's no longer about the milestones, the structure, all these things that we needed to do in order to survive as a human race. But now we've gone too far. So I know that shift is already happening. And I'm not saying, and I don't believe you are either, I don't think that we're saying that these people are not going to be, or these systems are not going to be needed. They're just going to shift.
Yeah.
Of course we need money. Of course we need, commerce. Those things are beautiful and important. And again, we have gone a little bit too far. And I think even entrepreneurs are starting to see that as well. The fact that they, had to spend time with themselves in lockdown, however long it was, wherever you were, if there was a lockdown. It's that initial like, oh, these things I can't do anymore. Or this, all of a sudden, for me, my speaking opportunities shifted. And so then I moved to podcasting, and now it's like I love it. Right. So I think it is that we're going to take the things that we have done before. And for those of us who are conscious of it right now and sharing, and therefore others will be more aware, the more we as a collective will start to just shift that whole dynamic, with still some of those foundational items available and beautiful, but definitely not in the process or the pace that we had been initially taught, before even 2020.
And I think when we were talking, what also came to me as the next step, because now we're in, like, I hear it a lot, oh, this is no longer working. Now, let me show you now what is working now. We're doing the same mistake again, where it's like, we have to understand what works for you may not work for another person. So that we don't make people believe, because I think the most precious thing we can do is to empower people. And I think that's what human design is all about, right?
Exactly. And that's why I love using it as a guide in the quote unquote coaching space, because yes, when I first was in it, like I mentioned earlier, my mentor was very traditional. So I had my framework and I stuck to my framework, and I only talked about these things. We never got personal, and I hardly ever, well, I was asked not to just hold space, but as a projector, I can't not. So it was this already, the duality of it, which we keep coming back to, the duality of who I just naturally was inside of my design without thinking about it or knowing about it, versus who I've been taught or what I've been taught that I need to do in order to create what I want. And So even through all of that, it was that moment of, okay, I have this operations manual. I can now customize. And it is really interesting that now that I use human design as the entryway to working with me, whether it's, you continue to work with me after a reading or you just have a reading, this
Mhm.
is all about you now. This isn't about my frameworks. This isn't about my checklist. This isn't about anything about me.
Yeah.
I love that I can see you. I know you. And therefore, I can guide you to understanding how you can best create what you want. And
Mhm.
also give you that permission to explore why you chose the way you did, or even when you're in, for generators, a plateau spot, to hold space and reevaluate and look for,
Mhm.
what's next, what to let go of.
Mhm.
And I love now that no longer do I step into a session going, oh, this is the day they're going to find out I'm a fraud. This is the day where I'm not going to go know the answer.
Yeah.
To, ooh, I just get to sit and be with somebody today and utilize themselves so I can support them so then they can be profitable mentally, emotionally, and financially as they create what they want.
Yeah. No, I have the same experience. Like I literally let almost go of everything I learned, what it means to be a coach.
Yeah.
And human design gave me this what deep confidence because it's so much easier when you generally sit down with a person and you listen to them where they're at. It's more about asking
Mhm.
questions, right?
Absolutely.
And help them find their own truth. Because yeah, we are being taught, well, keep signing on people again and again and again. But I have always been, because I have to be honest with myself. I was like, I don't want to have people dependent on me. That's
Right.
codependency. That's actually shadow of some of the gates and gene keys. And
Yeah.
so, some people may want to work with me, like you say, one session. And I have seen magic happen. Like after a year, they come back and like, oh my God,
Yeah, same. Yeah,
session.
yeah.
And I listen to it again. And it's
Yep.
sometimes,
I
guys,
love those.
less is more.
Yeah.
Other people, they work with you one-on-one for 6 months or for a year. That's exactly great for them. Some people have the
Yeah.
budget for it. Some people don't. I have a low-cost membership. I like to have different
Same.
options that are
Yep.
not financially putting a burden on people or
Yep.
putting people into debt or putting the
Yeah.
pressure to perform.
Yep.
And it's still important to get out of your comfort zone. It's still important to take action, right? It's not going
Yeah.
to be like, oh, everything is always going to be comfy in that sense. So
Oh gosh, yeah. It's you still, I always say, yes, we have all these things that make our businesses or our lives more fluid, but we're still human. Like I had a ridiculous burnout, and I mean ridiculous because it was so long, from October 2022 to January of this year of
wow.
2024. And it was just a build up from lockdown from so here in Chicago, we were in lockdown for about a year and a half. And so my son was doing at home learning for a year and a half. As you
Wow.
mentioned earlier, he's autistic. So I was his special ed teacher, I was his general ed teacher, I was his occupational therapist, I was his behavioral therapist, and he was all that 2 feet away from me, while I still also need to be Mel the guide, Mel the speaker, Mel the business owner. And my nervous system, bless its heart, did what it needed to do. But when I got to a place where I could just take a breath, my nervous system then went, okay, now we're going to just rest and go back to my mental and emotional profitability.
Mm.
And I was so privileged to be able to make the decision to put my business on autopilot, focus on myself and my family, you know, first and foremost. And the thing that I loved is that I even then was able to dig deeper and really connect to my design, because it's, yes, it's beautiful to know how to use it when you're in the flow and when you're in certain elements, but when you're in those hallways or those transitional points where, stuff can get deep and dark and low sometimes.
Mm.
I also loved that I was still able to turn to that as a relief, as a reminder of, no, no, as a role model. Again, I'm 43, so I'm still on the roof. As a hermit, as a projector, as an emotional authority, I, you know, I need to remember these things as I move forward so I don't make a decision out of frustration or lack or what have you. To, embrace my hermitness and remind myself that I am on the roof and where are my foundations. And it just helped me be even more profitable inside of that space mentally, emotionally, to where when I came back in January of this year, 2024, that first quarter was my most profitable in all three areas since 2010. And
Wow.
so again, it was that like, okay, yes, I'm human. And those transitions, those hallways, those down points still do happen. And we can still be profitable while we're inside of them, as well as after we've moved through them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially if you also understand that profitable does not only relate to money, right? It also relates to
Absolutely.
emotionally and mentally as well. I totally
Mm-hmm.
understand. Yeah. So when you were saying like I was fortunate enough to put my business on autopilot, can you talk a
Yeah.
little bit about it? And also, because that's something for me, for example, when I first started my business as well, it was all about systems and automations, but I wasn't fully grounded in what I'm doing or confident enough.
Yeah.
But now I'm like I know, for example, I can automate things more.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm still resisting it a little bit sometimes. I have some automations, I have to say, but I know I could take it to the next level. And there's a part of
Yeah.
me, and I think lots of my listeners are, yeah, because I got so burned on this years ago when I
Yeah.
didn't have this foundation. But I
Yeah.
do think technology and systems are so valuable to actually give us the ease where we can
Absolutely.
just disconnect more and more. So things are running
Mm-hmm.
on autopilot. So I'd just love to hear some of your tips and from your own experience.
Yeah. So probably the biggest thing that I shifted, and we talked about this before, just in general, was my relationship to social media.
Mm,
I had been purely virtual since 2013, so I'd been through all the ideations. I was there when Instagram came out. I was there, I'm an OGer,
mm,
and I realized that I had put that on a pedestal as well as this is important. This is where you need to be visible and you need to play the game and yada yada yada. And I, first and foremost, I didn't have anything to say because I'm a single splits or not split. I'm a
single
single
definition.
definition.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I internalize a lot of stuff, and I didn't feel the need to be on social media. So I went back to, okay, where do I just feel successful as a projector? And I love LinkedIn. I really do love LinkedIn because to me it's not as filtered or I don't want to say one
It's
note, but
it's not so hyped up, no? It's a little bit more
yeah, it's you're getting to know
professional.
people in different facets, both professionally
Mm,
and personal. And for me, it's just like the most beautiful blend. Once I stopped following some people that I could, that were to your point also triggering me. And then my newsletters. And so I just made sure that my energy was devoted to those things. If I felt called to post something on Instagram, I would, but I took that pressure off myself. I maintained the clients that I had. And I had virtual coffees with people that just gave me those energetic boosts as a projector that I needed. And I really limited my availability to those that I just didn't know. I took time just really curating and being comforted by spaces that I had already either created or somebody created with me inside of it.
mm,
And so I took off my virtual coffee link. It became private. As a projector, my scheduler is my like end all be all. So then I know I only schedule a certain amount of meetings on
mm.
certain days.
Yeah,
So that
that
is
I have.
automatically
Yeah,
done for me.
that is so good. I agree.
And so what I mean by autopilot for me was I stripped back all of the excess things that I was doing because it was just part of my funnel, part of my plan, part of whatever, and went back to the things that just made me happy. And even then, not be so caught up in the quote unquote consistency. I redefined what consistency means to me.
Mm,
And originally, it's a lot like do the same thing every day and, To
mm,
me now, consistency is when I choose to step into the space. The consistency is the quality of my energy when I am there. And
mm,
that to me is so much more important. And so taking off that pressure off myself to perform, as you mentioned earlier, or to just be there to be there, I just stripped it back to what makes me happy, what makes me light up, and do it when I feel called and have the energy and be beautiful and be still present when I'm called to not do it at all.
mm. Yeah, it's so true because consistency. I actually did an episode about just that. a while ago, because we can define consistency in a million different ways. And I think we also
Absolutely.
mostly have this idea, oh, you have to be on social media 3 times a day. That's what consistency means. But you show up once a week very powerfully, even if it's at a different time.
Yeah.
It's so much more profound, and less is more. I always believe that. And I have also started to notice that what I consume is very much what my ideal client, people that I
Mm-hmm.
connect with, consumes.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot tolerate fake anymore. I cannot
Yeah.
tolerate this hype up stuff anymore. My nervous system wants to run.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I have people that are really down to earth, it makes sense. It's really, really authentic, where you can
Yeah.
feel the authenticity is oozing out of them. Yeah, that actually, I find that very attractive. And,
Yeah.
you know, but anytime now where I have people, oh, these are the 3 things you have to stop doing. This is what you
Yeah.
have to do to be successful. Like, and I have a hard time sometimes, because it's also often at times, yeah, people that I used to connect with a lot. And I'm struggling
Yeah.
a little bit with that, because I was like, well, I don't want to just unfriend everybody, but I'm almost getting to the point where I'm just gonna say it right now, because it has come up a couple of days ago and I was there. Like, I really, on my Instagram, I'm almost there, but I want to unfollow everybody.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I'm not your friend. You can always message me. I also have a private profile that I'm really not using, but it's just because I don't want to have anything in my feed. I no longer want to get influenced. It's just because
Yeah.
where I'm at. I used to be the consumer years ago, and I needed it, right?
Yeah.
And my shift in my business happened when I became the creator, when I'm like, okay, if I have a store, if I'm just consuming content,
Yeah.
I'm not going to, especially that holds me off from my consistency, right? So
Yeah.
I feel somehow my truth, but my people pleaser is still a little bit like, what are people going to think if you're going to unfollow them? But I really feel like I have to do it just to be even more in my power, and not to be distracted.
Yeah.
That's really all, because I'm still struggling with it sometimes, that it's so easy to get distracted. Like,
Absolutely. And oh, go ahead.
I mean, like, how many times does it happen, right? You want to do something, and then 5 minutes or 20 minutes later, you're like,
Why was I on my phone?
what just happened?
Right.
I just opened up Instagram or whatever, and oh my
Yeah.
God, I'm like, I'm still shocked by it sometimes. It's unbelievable how
Yeah.
easily we get pulled in a different direction. And then we think,
Yeah.
oh, we don't have time. Don't have enough hours in the day. But I think, to be really of service and help the people that I'm here to help, I have to, it's my responsibility in some way.
Yeah. And I think we forget that our social media accounts is our space. We have
Mhm.
control what we share, who we share it with.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes we forget that because we are taught a lot that it's a tool and you want to be accessible and you want to, yeah, you want to be accessible and that's how people find you and that's how you get these amazing offers. And I've been on social media. I've been utilizing it for my business since 2013. There are pieces of it that I absolutely love. Meeting people like you, getting opportunities where, you find those collective souls. And I also had to do and still do at least once or twice a year, do a mass cleanse
Mhm.
of all of my social media platforms. The ones
Mhm.
that I most known for business are Instagram and LinkedIn. But I would even say on Instagram, I just wanna follow the people that I wanna support, that just give me something, and I don't necessarily want to add to the noise in that space. I wanna just receive, and I know who I wanna receive from, and I wanna support them, and I wanna reshare their stuff. I wanna use my platform to
Yeah.
bring others a little bit more forward, because when I looked at, numbers are a beautiful thing. I know I kinda downplayed them earlier in our conversation. I do love numbers,
Mhm.
but I love it to where it just shows me where my people, when it comes to clients, are coming from. For me, that's LinkedIn. So then with LinkedIn, I share a little bit. I don't share differently. I share the same on every platform, but I just feel more enthusiastic when I share there, as well as supporting people on there because it's a different, it's a combination of personal and professional. It's not,
Yeah.
you know, the Bali babe Instagram human design person that's like every filter is the same. And we were mentioning in the green room about how, I feel that there's this now real duality in human design. And one of the elements that just kind of gives me the ick is those that have just really dulled it down to very Instagrammable quotes. They just know one thing. And then all of a sudden people are like, oh yeah, I know everything. You're like, oh, that was like the tip of the iceberg. Um, and so I am even human design people. I love nerding out. I felt, and when they do have practices that just don't give me good feelings, I bless and release them. And you know what? That's the best I can do. So reminding ourselves that every space that we are a part of, where we have Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever, that is our space. And we have full say on who we see and who we support and vice versa. And I don't think we should be afraid to exercise those rights whatsoever.
Yeah, no, no, I agree. Yeah, and it's not to make anything else wrong, right? We just have to honor
Mm-mm,
what feels right to us. And for me, it's also,
absolutely.
I used to be on Facebook, but I think I stopped that a year or 2 years ago. Like I barely ever, only if I'm in somebody's group or container
Hmm.
and they have a Facebook group. That's kind of these days. I deleted it on my phone a long time ago. That was such a great thing for
Right?
my for the space I had in my day, especially. And for me, it's still Instagram that because I love the aesthetics and everything.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I'm intrigued with LinkedIn. I haven't found the access point there for me. Maybe it's coming at some point. That's why
Yeah.
I'm leaning into my human design and just trusting myself with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a whole different audience for sure than
Mm.
like Facebook. It's literally like you can tell me, oh my God, this is the place to be, but I'm not feeling it. And that's the beautiful blessing that human design gave me, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and when I go back to the point, because I studied with Karen Parker, and I mean she's
Mm.
amazing. She really brought a very expansive view of human design into the world.
Yeah.
I really love that about her. And I remember one time I think she had Richard Rudd from the Jinkies. Are you familiar with the Jinkies?
I'm familiar. I'm not
Yeah,
educated very deeply in
yeah.
that,
So
but
they both know each other. I think from a long they both studied, from what I know, to the best of my knowledge, with Ra,
mm,
the person that brought human design into the world. And I remember she was saying something like that she doesn't really know what Richard is doing so much. I mean, it's very similar what they're doing in their own way.
yeah.
But I understand this now because she's also like this, like and I think she said it like, no, I have to focus on my stuff. Like, because
Mm,
I think just like me, there's this that you easily get into like, yeah, but I have to do it like this person or this person.
mm,
We kind of lose track of, I mean, if we are being called as our purpose to really share something, our viewpoints with the
yeah.
world, and I just feel this stronger and stronger, even like you have already written a book that I'm kind of in the beginning feeding stages of that. And
Yeah.
I just feel the more content I consume, it's actually delaying the process for me. Because
Mm,
as we have learned, the wisdom is already here,
absolutely.
right? And yeah, so it feels like a really courageous step, really get out of my comfort zone because of this, like, what are people gonna think? And like, but I think I really need it for myself.
Yeah, and it's those pings of, as we evolve as humans, things just sit differently. I'm on the same feeling as well when it comes to social media, that I have an amazing friend and colleague who has built a very successful business in all areas, completely off the grid. She does not have social media. And she's been able to do this. And that, as I'm getting older, as I'm getting more, from off my roof into my role model phase, that just seems really yummy to
Mm,
me. I
mm,
don't know if that's exactly what it looks like for me, but it is those pings of, okay, so then maybe for now, what is it that I want to pull back on? And what is it that
mm,
is the most important to me, just in regards of how I share and who I share it with? And I always love when I run into clients or when I meet people. I always think of one of my clients. I met her in a bathroom at an event that I spoke at. And she didn't even go to my session, but she went to the session after me. And one of my pieces of paper of like my priority points was on there. And she saw me back and she's like, "Is this yours?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Talk about prioritization. You talk about energy management." She goes, I love what I do, but I feel stuck because all these things that, I'm being told
Mm.
that I should do and I'm overwhelmed. And I said, yeah, that completely makes sense. And she's like, I want more clients, but I'm sure the first thing you're going to tell me is you need to be on social media.
Yeah.
And I looked at her and I said, that is absolutely not what I'm going to say. What I typically then follow up with is, so how do you find your clients? And she goes, this. And I said, perfect. And we looked at her chart. Shockingly, she was an opportunist. So then it was even more of that permission of, no, social media doesn't need to be your jam. It's networking, it's possibly being a speaker, it's doing podcasts. And just the way her shoulders dropped from me just saying that of how do you meet your clients and you should keep doing that. That's when I knew that those elements of, yes, we need to get away from this copy and paste of everything that we think we need to do in order to create what we want or that we're told to do, to no, I know there's an opportunist line in there.
Yeah.
I know, and I don't remember the rest of the chart off the top of my head, but it's that permission of, yes, you can do things differently and
Mhm.
still be profitable. And the more that we are tuned to that, the more that we do truly understand that we have everything inside of us to answer the call of our soul. We just have to find it. And we turn to ourselves first instead of going to the, external first. The way this entire process and pace in entrepreneurship, and as well as in other circles, is going to just drastically shift is super exciting to me.
Mm.
Moving away from that, you need to be here 30 days, 90 days, blah, 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 to this is a journey. This is a process. This is my like understanding your process, your pace, your permission, and being able to just lean in and get comfy in that. I know that's what more and more people are craving. They may not call it that, but that feeling, that emotional pull is, to anybody listening, somebody's probably going, "Oh, yes, yes." Could human design help you? Yes. Is that the only tool? No, it's whatever's called to you, but it's that internal permission of, I know this to be true, whether I know my human design or not.
Mhm.
Therefore, anybody else who tells you you should do it, you can proudly tell them to suck it and go do their own thing and see how that develops for you as you create what you want.
Yeah, I love it. And that's the other thing I love with human design. It's not our job to figure it out. We don't know how to
No,
plan out.
no.
Every time I over plan, it's a waste of time because just a split second later, my body's showing me a different way and I can discard everything that I have planned. I think
Yeah.
it's good to have a big vision, right?
Have those intentions, have those,
Yes,
yeah, those
yes.
focuses. That's how I would like to use it. I no longer have a goal board. I have an intentional board of what's my
Yeah.
intention, what's my focus right now, and
Mhm.
making sure that it is more of that emotional intention
Mhm. Yeah.
as opposed to that promotional one.
Yeah, like I want to truly enjoy what I'm doing. If that's your intention,
Yeah.
I think that's going to give you so much more success in all areas of life than, oh, my goal is to make 10K this month. It's
Yeah.
so, it's empty, right?
Yeah. There's so much more to that.
And more it's like I welcome in the financial reward for this as well, right? But I can be detached because how am I even know what is the right number for me? That's all. I
Mhm.
mean, if I really follow what human design teaches, all these like money goals is, you know,
Guidelines.
yeah, because it's like, well, I'm making this up with the mind and now I'm forcing myself. But what if my life path is supposed to be way bigger and it's just going to take some different turns and there's going to be less money for a while, but then it's going to be really big, but I cannot plan it. I
Yeah.
mean, and again, everybody's situation is different. It's more about
Yeah.
allowing what is my path supposed to be instead of trying to force and make it the same. Everybody's going to be a millionaire going back what we talked in the beginning, right? But
Yeah.
like you said, you pursued the high finance stuff and then you got burned out when you were super unfulfilled and not happy.
Yeah.
Is that worth it?
Yeah. And and again, the duality, there's so much duality inside of what we're talking about because there's that structural part and then there's that spiritual part, right?
Mhm.
And I think on the other end of the spectrum, when you're in or more of those spiritual spaces, and I'm just gonna say from my perspective, it's a little bit too fluid. It's a little bit too, oh no, everything's just gonna work out.
Yeah, that's the other extreme, right?
And there's still I have a conversation before with somebody that I know, and they are an entrepreneur. They're in the beginning stages of it. They've shifted several times, which we all do. And they are in my opinion, and I've expressed this to them, so I'm not spilling any tea. Is sometimes we do have to make decisions that aren't quote unquote in alignment with what we want to do in the long term, but it
Mhm,
appeases a piece of something so the rest of our nervous system can figure it out. So for me, when
mhm,
I became a mom in 2011, I was married at the time, and my husband's work schedule was insane. He was gone 2 months for spring
mhm,
training, was gone every other week of the month. And I didn't have any family here. So I was in the fitness industry. I was going to people's houses. I couldn't do that anymore. Sprinkle in some undiagnosed postpartum depression, and I didn't know what I was doing. I just kept trying to make this fitness thing work. And finally, I had to kind of put my hands up and go, okay, this isn't working. Nothing's helping. What does this look like? And so I put a pin in my business, and I ended up doing some online medical billing for my father's company. And I did some VA work for a couple of different companies.
mhm.
Was it exactly what I want to do? No. Did I enjoy it? Some the VA, yes. Medical billing, not so much. But it did alleviate that financial stress of it. So my mental and emotional parts could seek out what I want now looks like to me.
Yeah, this is such a good point because this is, I feel, also for the audience that we are talking to here, right? It's mostly like conscious leaders, entrepreneurs, or aspiring or scaling entrepreneurs. Sometimes it's okay when you feel lost. You, I don't think it's good for us to pressure something to make money.
No, yeah.
Sometimes it's okay. Take another job just so
Go work
that
at a
you can
coffee
get,
shop for a little bit, just kind of like,
yeah, and then
yeah,
you connect with people. And because we have, that's again the influence we have learned, oh, I'm failing, or now people are gonna judge me. I didn't make the 6 figures.
yeah.
But
I'm
like,
not an entrepreneur because I have to take a 9 to 5.
yeah, like,
Entrepreneur is just another term. It's not the way we've defined it has gotten just so far past what it truly is, which is just somebody who's
yeah.
doing something differently.
Yeah. And if that's meant to be for you, that for a little while you do something else while you get more in touch with what does it really want for your business,
Absolutely.
whatever comes with the most ease into your life, that is what's meant to be, right? If you're
Yeah.
really being meant to be fully on the entrepreneur journey, it will always work out and will life will pull you there. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I really learned over the years, but let's not make it a bad thing if you feel
No.
like you need to do something else to support your dream. And it's okay. We're not always, sometimes we gotta do what we gotta do to pay the bills, to
Absolutely.
not
Absolutely.
freak out financially and be in a place where we have all this pressure to create something which is most often very uninspirational, right?
Correct. And none of us make the best decisions out of pressure, especially for those of us who are
Um,
emotional authority. It's like, no, no. And so
yeah,
when we do have that, then to your point, we can understand and really look at things from an simpler perspective instead of a scarcity perspective and really go, okay, do I like online medical billing? No. So I gave it the energy that it needed. I did it in times of day where I could just knock it out and still have my energetic days to do the things that I love. Right. So I was
yeah,
still able to
um,
make it work. And it did present to me some really beautiful opportunities that have created the journey that I've been on so far.
yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
does that mean I'll never do it again? I have no clue. I don't. And I'm done. I'm to your point, I'm done trying to forecast that. I am done with the something before 55. So nope. Today, I know what I'm doing today. I know who I'm seeing today. I know the energy that I have today. That is my intention. That is my focus. Tomorrow, I'm going to reevaluate all over again because I'm a projector and that's what I kind of need to do. And so it's that permission of owning your pace, whatever that pace is in that time, in that moment, in that hallway from in between the doors of opportunity, and just embrace it. And anybody who calls you a failure, whether that's, Becky inside of your head or actually Becky in front of your face, those are both things of just like, in human design, that's our not self. That is not really a piece of me. That is a story. So what are the ways that I can counteract that or counterbalance that with what I actually know to be true?
Yeah, it totally resonates what you're saying. Absolutely. So I would love to hear a little bit more about your journey with human design. Like when, because I use the same terminology with like, it found me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would just love to hear the impact it has made for you, how you use it for yourself, also with your clients.
Yeah. So it found me for the first time in 2017. So I grew up in a very religious household, under the religion Seventh Day Adventist. So I grew up in a very strict religious household. So these kind of spiritual things weren't necessarily talked about or supported. And then I went on a spiritual journey after my divorce in 2016, and I put on my goal board, because I did call it a goal board then at the back of the day, to learn how to meditate. And the universe presented to me with one of my longtime spiritual advisors, Elise, and one of the other participants in the mastermind that I was part of mentioned human design. So I did the quick lookup, and all I read was my type. And I just went, oh, yeah, nope, that's me. Cool. But then nothing resonated, like nothing else came from it at that point. Fast forward to 2020, the same spiritual coach is holding a retreat in Sedona, Arizona, which happened to have been, unbeknownst to me, 2 weeks before lockdown here in Chicago. And one of the other participants was a little bit more studied in human design. So it came up again. And all of a sudden, I read my whole chart and I sobbed. I mean, we could have a whole nother episode of just all of the WTF moments, but it really did initiate this kind of conversion from really sticking to the traditional mentors and traditional ways of how to build a business to, okay, Mel, it is now time to go back to you. And who the hell are you? Like what is this? Because I was so connected to titles, to descriptors, to accolades. And I, again, having an open G center, having everything open except for a solar plexus and a root, it was just not self a go-go. And so I started first by just doing little things like honoring the fact that I have slow, not copious amounts of energy. However, I can receive it from others. So it started with when I speak, I take half the day off before I speak and I take the full day off afterwards. And it was just those little things. Brendan Bouchard is an amazing coach and author. And one of his favorite quotes that I should have tattooed on my body at some point is, it's the little things you do every day that make the biggest difference.
Yeah,
And
he's
so it's those, yeah, so it's those little shifts that I started to do. And then I started to expand on them, like my scheduler with my calendar. So I only take 2 meetings a day and I only take them 4 days a week. Do I get people kind of rolling their eyes at me like, man, I wish I could build a business that way? Well,
I just to share with you, it's the same for me. I don't do 2 in a day. It's very rare that I have 3 things on my calendar, and I always
yeah.
see that it's like it's too much. Yeah.
Yeah. And even the 3, I sometimes do reschedule if it's somebody that if it's a new person, like a virtual coffee. So if anybody schedules a virtual coffee with me and I email you and say my schedule suddenly shifted, it's because my energy shifted and it's a different energy when it's somebody new.
Yeah.
So I do reschedule newer people or even people that I love and respect that I'm just like, you know what? Not in it today. So it's those things of like permission to reschedule things, be respectful, but also to them as well as to myself. And then that turned into, shifting away from that initiation that my business mentor taught me to sharing and waiting for the invitation. What does that look like for me? Speaking opportunities since COVID, speaking in person, I still love. And it also takes a lot out of me with travel and everything like that. So I've shifted that to focusing on podcast interviews because it's still the same. I'm still being accessible. I'm still doing all the things that I love. I'm in my apartment with, my comfy clothes on and my dog at my feet. And this
Yeah.
is just so much better, right? So it's just really helped me take what I have already done and either fully let it go or just really sync it up to how I can utilize it and customize it. And I do the exact same things with my clients. My clients are, people usually ask me where they typically are in their business. And I love that they're in several different places. One is either they're about 1 year to 2 years in, they're done throwing everything at the wall. They really want to get back to, who they are, or even understand who they are before they go any further. And so
Mhm.
we utilize human design for them to just start from themselves first, sooner rather than later. My other people are anywhere from 7 to 10 years in their business, and they realize they never took that pausing point, and they are burnt out. They're not connected to a business that they loved and built up, that they are, financially successful in. They're in what I call a hallway between the doors of opportunity.
Yeah.
And so we utilize it for them to either meet themselves for the first time or get to know who they are now that we've gone past the corporate PTSD, now that we've gone past this and gone past that, and to help them reconnect or possibly rebrand or rebuild a business that is just from their soul instead of from, from a client, or not from a client, from a mentor or from a book that they just copy and
Yeah.
pasted.
Oh, I love this. Yeah, we could talk for hours and hours about all of this. Absolutely. So yeah, it's funny because my podcast, as we're speaking and recording today, it's called The Art of Slowing Down, and I'm relaunching it to the Magic Pause. It may be
I love
that
that.
when this is being released, it's already the Magic Pause. I don't
Yeah, I love
I,
the magic
I
pause.
because that's exactly what I feel like. If we take the time for a
Yeah.
pause, reassess,
Yep.
because then we can just take a shift in direction and we go in the aligned direction instead of forcing ourselves
Yeah.
into the wrong direction, because we always feel like pressure and hustle and grind and it never
Yeah.
stops. And so yeah. And again, that's really human design, gene keys, all these beautiful modalities have
Yeah.
given me that wisdom that I think I knew deep inside, but I needed the confirmation outside of
Absolutely.
me, right? Because
Yeah.
I was like, am I crazy like that? I'm just like so going against the grain, like exactly the opposite of what everybody else is saying. But now
Right.
I'm kind of seeing more and more confirmation and things are starting to shift. And
Yeah.
that's why, right? The polarities,
Yeah.
they come up, they show us, and then we find our own way through, kind of bouncing between the polarities in some way.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's
Mhm.
all about, for me, I always say, when, you have a reading, whether it's with me or with somebody else, it's all about validation, confirmation, and awareness, because
Yeah.
we need those things in order to just really take that step back, in a sense, so you can see the bigger picture. Not exactly a step back as in you're retracting,
Yeah.
but it's that pausing point. And the more
Mhm.
that we can use that word in a very glorious way, the more that people will connect to it in the way that it's intended, instead of this train, get on the train, do the thing, especially for, the Manny Gens, like, just gotta go do the things. Like, yes, 2 secs, like, quick pause point. So I agree that, yes, human design does give you that validation, confirmation, awareness. There are a lot of beautiful tools that do in combination with each other. And no matter which one I feel that you are pulled to, it is all about just connecting to yourself,
Mhm.
having the vernacular, so you have that validation and confirmation, as well as that awareness of, where did you go too far, or where did the not self kind of sneak in that you didn't know was a not self, and how can we reframe or reevaluate how that's brought forward, and what we do with it.
Yeah, I love that. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing all your amazing wisdom. And where can people find you? How can they best connect with you?
Sure, and thank you for having me. So
Yeah,
if
of
you would like
course.
to chat more, no pressure, no stress, I do have a virtual coffee link. It's virtualcoffeewithmel.com. Feel free to check out my website, melmcsherry.com, or definitely feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, Mel McSherry.
Yeah, and you also have a podcast, right? More Than Just, is that?
I do, yeah. It's on hiatus right now in true projector fashion, but I do have a podcast called More Than Just. That's
Okay.
I
Yeah,
love it.
perfect. Awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna make sure to put all this in the show notes. And I have one final question for you before I let you go.
Yeah.
What's one nugget of wisdom that has been like life-changing for you, or like a sentence, or like, one core thing that you embody,
Mm.
that you want to share with everyone?
I would say the biggest anchor and grounding thing that I have learned to do, and that I hope that I want others to do as well, is just trust yourself.
Mm.
You really do have everything inside of you to answer the call of your soul. It may not be instantly apparent, but whether you know your human design or not, you know those feelings in your body. You know what you like to do and you know what you don't like to do. Trust that. Even if it's weird, even if it's against, the norm, the tradition, what have you, it's your business. You have full say on how you spend the time and energy that you have. So trust how you want to spend it, and you will be, that will start your journey to being profitable mentally, emotionally, and financially.
Yeah, I love that. I think we need to hear it again and again because it
Yeah.
takes time for us to actually make it click and actually do it. And that's all what human design is about. And I always feel like
Yeah.
if you trust yourself, you don't need it anymore. You can like I think we're here to transcend all of our charts eventually, because
Agreed.
once you do you have the courage to go against the mainstream, you're
Yep.
golden.
Yep.
Wonderful. So thank you so much, Mel. This was such a
Thank
beautiful comment.
you.
Just realized like time is flying. We
I know.
over time and like I want to honor your time as well and everybody listening. So thank you again from the bottom of my heart. It was so beautiful to connect, have this conversation with you. And you listeners, as always, thank you for being here. I hope you enjoyed this. And I'm excited to be with you all on the next episode.